Defense calls James LeBron King to the stand.
So if you'll raise your right hand, you also promise to stick to the fact pattern.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may have a seat. You may proceed.
Please introduce yourself to the jury. Spell your last name for the record.
My name is James LeBron King. I go by J.L. Last name is spelled K-I-N-G. You might have seen me on TV a few times.
Yes, Mr. King. Mr. King, I'd like to discuss with you the events of the morning of June 26th and the evening of June 25th. Can you tell me how that evening began for you?
Well, my wife and I, we were out the evening before and out at a nightclub enjoying a night out as a couple.
And what did you do at the nightclub?
We drank.
Mr. King, what did you drink?
I drank Jack and Cokes.
About how many Jack and Cokes did you have that evening?
At least 5, maybe more.
And how did that evening progress?
We were going to leave the nightclub, and as we were getting ready to leave, one of my former friends, Mr. Cashman, came in and started saying some very mean things to me.
How did that argument proceed?
He got in my face, he started being very accusatory, he was very drunk, and my wife, she just told us we should probably just go ahead and leave.
And when she suggested you leave, what did you do?
We left and we went to Johnny Cakes to have some pancakes.
After having pancakes at Johnny Cakes, what did you do?
We went home.
And was there anything that you did on that ride?
I took a nap, I was really drunk, so I wanted to kind of get a head start on sleeping.
About what time did you arrive home?
About 4 o'clock in the morning.
And at that time, were you still intoxicated?
Yes, sir.
And you had just woken up?
Yes.
What happened when you arrived home?
My wife was walking in front of me to unlock the door and let us in the house, and right about the time she was starting to open the door, I heard what sounded like footsteps coming at me from behind.
And what did you do when you heard those footsteps?
I turned around and I saw that there was a masked man carrying a gun moving very quickly towards me.
Did you recognize the masked man?
No, I didn't.
And what did you do as he ran towards you?
Well, I saw that he had a gun, and I knew my wife was behind me with the door open, and I was really freaked out that we were about to get robbed or killed, so I started running towards the man to try to stop him.
So he's running towards you, you're running towards him,
Yes.
and you collide.
Yes.
What happens next?
We start to struggle, we start to fight. I'm trying to get the gun away from him. I don't want to get hurt or him to hurt my wife, so we're struggling.
And at this point, when you're struggling with him, do you recognize who the man is?
No, I don't.
How does the struggle continue?
Well, as we're struggling, the gun goes off. And we keep struggling, he keeps attacking me.
And as the gun is going off, he's attacking you. Where's your wife at this point?
She's running around behind us, screaming and acting hysterical. I think she might have been trying to go find some help.
What happens next with your struggle?
Well, we continue to struggle some more, and I eventually am able to get him down on the ground. I kind of sweep his leg a little bit and get him on the ground.
And once the two of you are both lying on the ground, do you recognize who the masked man is?
No, I don't.
How does the fight proceed from there?
Well, we're still struggling on the ground. He's still fighting me. He's still trying to, attack me. And my wife, I guess she decides she's got to do something. So she runs up to us and starts punching us.
And what happens to your wife?
She gets punched and pushed back.
After your wife is knocked back, how does your struggle with the masked man continue?
Well, I'm able to kind of get a little bit of a control over his hand. I get his hand behind his head, and I start to be pulling the gun away, standing up a little bit. And then my wife runs up again, and she runs into me.
I want to be clear, the moment before your wife runs into you, were you aware of who the masked man was?
No, I wasn't.
What happens when your wife runs into you?
Unfortunately, the gun goes off again.
What happens then?
The masked man, is dead on the ground.
As he lying dead on the ground, are you aware of who the masked man is?
No, I'm not.
What do you and your wife do next?
I put the gun on the ground, and my wife is over vomiting into the lawn, and I take her inside so that we can, recover a little bit from that incident.
What happens once you go inside?
I wash my hands because my hands are covered in blood, and I change my shirt because my shirt has some blood on it, and I console my wife.
What happens next?
While I'm consoling my wife, I hear sirens outside, and the police come.
And When the police arrived, what did you do?
I spoke with the police.
After speaking with the police, what happened then?
They took us down to the station to do an official report.
Your Honor, permission to publish an enlarged copy of Defense Exhibit A?
Any objection to that? Exhibit A has been permitted.
I have no objection, Your Honor.
You may do so.
Can I reposition myself accordingly?
You may.
Mr. James, would stepping down and approaching this exhibit help you explain what's in the exhibit to the jury?
Yes, sir, it would.
Permission to have the witness step down and approach the exhibit?
You may go ahead and do so.
Mr. King, please describe what is in the photo.
That's a picture of me, and I see I've got some injuries. I've got my bridge of my nose has a cut on it.
Just a moment. Are you aware of when that photo was taken?
Yes, I am. It was taken at the police station when I was brought in for questioning.
And how do you know that?
Because that's the wall of the police station there, and that's the shirt that they had me put back on.
Now, going back to the injury on the bridge of your nose you referenced, how did you get that injury?
I got that injury when I was being attacked by the masked man.
Did you see anything else in this photo?
Well, I see I have a bite mark on my arm right there.
How did you get the bite mark on your hand?
When I was being attacked by the masked man.
Are there any other injuries in the photo?
Well, I also see that I have a broken lip here.
And how did you get a broken lip?
When I was being attacked by the masked man.
You may take your seat. Now, I may have a moment to confer with co-counsel.
You may.
I have no further questions for the witness at this time.
Any cross-examination?
Sir.
Good evening, Mr. King.
Good evening.
You know Sheldon Cashman.
I've known him, yes.
On June 26th, he laid dead on your front lawn.
Yes, he did.
You've known Sheldon Cashman since high school.
Yes.
You were friends in high school.
Yes, we were.
You know that your wife slept with Sheldon Cashman in high school.
Objection, relevance.
Any response regarding relevance?
Certainly, Your Honor, this is relevant. A fact of consequence in this case is the motivation the defendant would have to kill the man in cold blood in his front yard. Knowing and having jealousy that his wife had slept with him in high school makes that fact of consequence more likely.
Any reply?
Your Honor, the defendant, his wife, and Mr. Cashman graduated from high school in 1995. This event is nearly 20 years old. I fail to see the relevance of a high school love triangle.
And I'll give you a response to that. Go ahead.
Certainly, Your Honor, I believe that goes to the weight, not the admissibility of this evidence.
One moment. I'm going to find at this point, I think it's relevant evidence, but under Rule 403, I think there is a substantial risk of unfair prejudice in this regard to a 20-year-old affair without any showing that there had been any follow-up problems, that they were in the same town apparently. So I'm actually going to sustain under 403 as to relevance. Let you continue.
Certainly. And you knew Sheldon Cashman in college.
Yes.
You roomed together.
Yes, we did.
You slept in the same room.
Yes, we did.
And after your NBA career fell apart, you moved back home.
Yes.
He got you a job.
We worked together, yes.
And then you started your own company.
Yes.
And he worked for you there.
Yes, he did.
You had to fire him.
I did. He stole from me.
You fired him because he stole from you.
Yes.
And you ended up losing your company because he stole from you.
Yes.
Now, you claim you didn't know that was Sheldon Cashman lying in your front yard, correct?
Correct.
But you saw him 90 minutes before.
Well, I was drunk on Jack and Cokes, yes.
Well, so that's a yes.
Yes.
And when you saw him at the club, he was wearing black pants.
I wasn't paying particular attention to him. I don't make a point of looking at what color pants he has on.
But he was wearing black.
A lot of people wear black, but yes, he was.
Your wife testified you were in the courtroom, correct?
Yes.
And you heard her say that Sheldon Cashman always wore black when he went out. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Again, I don't pay attention, but if she says it, it must be true.
Well, what you did pay attention to was when he started fighting with you.
Are you referring to the verbal altercation at the club?
I am referring to the verbal Arctic, excuse me. I am referring to that. Is that a yes?
Was I paying attention to him?
I will ask the question again. You were paying attention when Sheldon Cashman came at you.
I was pretty drunk, but I knew that he came up. I knew that it was him, and I knew that he was saying some words in my face. Yes.
Those were angry words.
Yes, they were.
Sheldon Cashman was angry.
Yes, he was.
And you were in the courtroom when your wife testified that she had to hold your arm.
I don't think that she could hold me back, but she did grab my arm to kind of indicate that we shouldn't have any kind of struggles.
She led you out of that club.
She told me that we should probably leave.
And you went to a restaurant after that,
We had some pancakes.
and then you went home.
Yes.
And as soon as you got home, a man came at you.
Well, I was walking the door, yes.
A man wearing black.
Yes.
A man holding a gun.
Yes.
And that was only 90 minutes after you saw Sheldon Cashman.
Yes.
I want to talk about what happened in the front yard. But first, I want to talk about what you did after. After that gun went off, you went into your house.
Yes.
You saw there was blood in your hands.
Yes, I did.
You didn't call 911.
I was more concerned with making sure my wife was okay. She was vomiting in the front yard. I wanted to make sure she wasn't going to continue to vomit.
Well,
Or
Mr. King, before you worried about your wife, you washed the blood from your hands.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't want to be consoling her and get blood all over her.
Well, that's not the only thing you did, because you had blood on your shirt,
Oh,
correct?
absolutely.
And you took that shirt off?
Again, I didn't want to get blood on my wife while I was consoling her.
You put that shirt in the back of your closet.
I threw it in my room and it went into the closet, yes.
And then you went to your wife.
Yes, because there was blood on my shirt.
And still you didn't call 911.
Not at that point. I was more concerned with taking care of my wife.
Police came.
Yes, they did.
They took you to the station house.
Yes.
You gave a statement.
Yes, I did.
It's your testimony today that the gun went off because your wife collided into you.
It went off at the same time my wife collided into me, yes.
So when you gave that statement to the police, an hour later, you didn't mention the gunshot went off because your wife collided into you.
I never had a chance to sign that statement, but I was also incredibly drunk at the time I was giving the statement, so I was a little
So that's a no. You didn't tell police the gun went off because your wife collided into you.
If that's what the report says, I didn't include that detail.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
Let's talk about what happened in the front lawn. You had control of that gun.
I was gaining control of the gun, yes.
Well, at one point, you actually had the gun in your hand.
We both had it in our hands, but I had more control over it than he did.
Well, there was a moment when you had it in your hand and you were backing away from him.
I was pulling him up with me as I was pulling the gun out of his hands.
And it released from his hand, didn't it?
I don't believe it released before the gunshot went off, no.
It's your statement today that the gunshot went off while his hand was still on the gun?
And again, I was very drunk at the time, but I don't remember I remember us both still having our hands on the gun when it went off.
So if you were so drunk, you can't remember why the gun went off.
I remember it was at the same time that my wife ran into my arm.
But you can't be positive because you can't remember facts.
Well, I was pretty drunk, but I do know that she ran into me at the same time the gun went off.
Right, she bull rushed into you.
Yes, she did.
And your finger was on the trigger.
Yes, it was.
And the gun was in your hand when it went off.
Objection asked and answered.
I'm going to actually allow a little leeway. We have covered some of this, but I don't think it's reached the point that it's unduly cumulative under Rule 403. That's a good objection, but I'll give you some opportunity to go ahead and follow up with this line of question.
I certainly can. Mr. King, the gun was in your hand when it went off.
My hand was on the gun, yes, when it went off.
That's a yes.
Yes.
No further questions.
Any redirect exam?
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. King, how did you find out the masked man was Sheldon Cashman?
I was told by the detective who was interviewing me.
And when did that happen?
About midway through the statement, he left and then came back incredibly accusatory and essentially insinuated that I knew who it was all along.
And where did you find out Mr. Cashman was the masked man?
At the police station in the interview room.
Your Honor, this witness may be excused.
You may step down. As our scoring panel writes down their scores, does the defense have any additional witnesses?
We have no further witnesses, Your Honor.
And does the defense rest?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
And I know the answer to this. Do the people have any rebuttal witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the people do not.
And let me go ahead and check at this point any post-evidentiary motions, since I skipped the halftime motions.
Your Honor, the only motion we have would be to renew our motion from the end of the prosecution's case in chief for a judgment of acquittal.
I'm going to find, for the reasons I found earlier, that I think that there has been a showing in the light most favorable to people that would sustain a conviction if the jury were to view the evidence as such. So the objection's preserved, but once again, I'm going to overrule it this time. Are both parties ready to proceed to their closing arguments?
The people are prepared.
Is the defense prepared?
The defense is prepared, Your Honor.
Can you check our scoring panels ready? With that then, prosecution may begin.
Just a moment, Your Honor.